crafty friends, this is Leah Lawson. I am super thrilled today that I am getting to hop along with Hero Arts, and I am using the Hero Studio kits for the first time ever, and I am super thrilled about it. So before we take a quick peek at the kits, before I get going on my cards, I just wanted to chat about today because this video is attached to a blog hop post for the July Hero Studio. So you'll definitely want to check that out. There will be a link to my blog hop post in the video description where you can leave a comment and then hop along and leave comments at all of the rest of the stops, which enters you into a giveaway to win a $50 gift card code to Hero Arts. So the more that you comment, the more chances you have to win. So definitely worth checking out. So I am featuring just a few kits from the July Studio, this month. Up first is the card kit itself. So that has this fantastic On the Road Hero Escape stamp set, along with a coordinating die. It's got these fantastic add-on dies. I think they're called Let's Go. And basically it is like elements of the inside of a car and then people that you can add, at least their hands and their feet anyway, that you can add to that car to even, bring it more to life. I'm super excited to use these both alone and separate today when we go to create our cards. There are also these fantastic cardstocks included in the kit. It's like a perfect beachy summer rainbow. So in the kit, there is also a mirror paper, which I did not receive, so I will be substituting for something else. And then I believe you get a pine colored ink cube as well. Now I'm also featuring the die set of the month. This is called Mixtape. I am super excited to cut all the pieces of this and assemble it for you. I think it's going to turn out super cute. And then finally, I have the Layering Stencils of the month. This is a 4-piece stencil set. We're going to ink blend that fantastic Just Keep Going sentiment and add the little shimmery stars as well. So let's go ahead and get going on my July Hero Studio projects. I'm going to start today with the On the Road Heroescapes stamp set that's part of the card kit. Now the stamps in this set are really solid, so I am just using a pink eraser to rub off that sheen, the shine, and really prep the stamp to help it accept the ink. Now I did this with every single stamp, but I only showed it on the first one. So for the first layer, this is our sunset or our sky, whichever you are stamping it to be. I'm starting with the sunset for this card, and I am inking it up in a really deep shade of orange and a nice deep shade of pink. And I want to make sure that this is really nice deep. So if you need to, you can always stamp your impressions a couple of times to get a good one. So this is the mountain layer, which I am inking up in a nice deep shade of purple and a deep shade of blue. So I am just softening out that line as I go, and that's why you see me switching from ink pad to ink pad. Now, the reason why I got that big blob that didn't transfer there is because I found out, or I noticed, that I had an air bubble underneath that stamp. So definitely take a look at your stamps when you put them on your stamping platform, and make sure that you work out that air bubble before you stamp, because then you won't get this issue. However, the second stamp did a great job. And the great thing about mountains is they are not perfect. So it's okay that there is a little bit of imperfection in the stamping of the mountain. There's also this added detail layer, which I am inking up in a darker shade of purple and a darker shade of blue. And that will really hide any of the imperfections or the areas that didn't stamp as well that first time. With this layer. Now, I stamped this panel a couple of times because I wanted to make a couple of cards. Now, the great thing about this set is that is an option you have. You can get it all lined up in your stamping platform, and then you can stamp multiple panels, in all the colors that you want. So that layer is just the road, and because it is night, I chose a nice dark shade of gray, which was a licorice color. Now this is the final layer that I am stamping in nice onyx black. You've got just kind of the rocky details and then those cute saguaro cacti, which only grow in Arizona. So this panel is now a depiction of Arizona. So you'll notice at the bottom of the Heroescape there is quite a bit of extra room left over. Now, of course, you could center the Heroscape wherever you want. This comes into play when it coordinates with some of the dies that are included in the card kit as well. But I wanted to showcase just the stamp set for my first card. So I am instead ink blending basically the same ombre gradient in a mirror fashion of the top to the bottom, but I went with lighter colors. So I'm ink blending it in more of a dreamy, soft pastel. So I started with the light orange, came in with some light pink, added that light purple, and I'm finishing off with the light blue, which will be the deepest of all tones. But that's okay because it's also closest to the source there at the bottom. So a fun way to use up all of that extra space that you have at the bottom. Or you could also, you'll see in my second card that I share, you can also just trim it and use the piece as is. So it's time to do our sentiments. I am heat embossing the sentiment in that Hero Arts iridescent gold. For some reason, either my camera didn't keep recording or I somehow hit the off button. But after we pour the embossing powder on here, I lost the footage of it heat setting. So basically, I just heat set this. Once I got the area all cleaned up, I heat set the sentiment and then just wiped away the excess mica powder that gets left behind. So sorry for that missing footage, but basically, it's just your normal heat embossing. There was nothing special about it. So there is a coordinating die for the sentiment. So I cut it out along with a couple extra layers from white just for stacking purposes. And then you'll notice over there in the corner that I did die cut just the moon die. There is a coordinating stamp for that moon, but I decided just to use the die and I cut it from some matte gold paper. And I thought it would be a really pretty addition. So we're just going to start creating and putting our card together. I am popping that panel up onto a navy blue card base with some foam tape, and then adding my sentiment as well with a little bit of foam, and then popping that moon up in the sky with a little bit of foam adhesive as well. So here is that card. I added some little tiny self-adhesive Aura AB gems into the sky as stars and also to accent around the sentiment. Now, I didn't show this card in action because you already saw the stamping, but basically I just matted it to some matte gold paper, put it on a card base. It kind of looks like a postcard almost. And then for that one, I did heat emboss both the sentiment and the moon with that same iridescent gold embossing powder. So here up next is the die set that goes with this kit. It's called Let's Go. And in the previous video, I gave you kind of the grid for the colors I used, and then that is it all put together. Now here's the second half of it. This is the grid of colors. You'll notice I overlapped the shoes on the two colors because you want them cut from both that kind of peachy shade and also the white. So great things to screenshot there is those little grids that I've given. So there are those pieces all put together. Now I stamped that Heroscape in more daytime colors and went ahead and adhered the fun car inside of the car scene to it. Did some trimming, and now I am adhering it to just a white card base to kind of make it look like you're still inside the car. I thought the white was a nice touch. So then we are going to go ahead and add all of the other little pieces. This is such a cute set. You've got the arm that controls the steering wheel. If you didn't want to do the legs, I think there's actually another arm, an opposite arm that's like pointing at the scenery. So that one is really fun too. I opted for the cute legs because this is something that I sometimes do when we're on road trips. Especially if I'm starting to get uncomfortable, I'll kick my feet up on the steering wheel. So there's lots of cute little accessories in this set. I opted for the coffee cup and the sunglasses because those are pivotal when I'm on a road trip. There are also elements that you can hang from that rear view mirror, which are really fun. I wanted to keep more of the Heroscape scene visible. So I decided to leave off any of the little ornaments for the rear view. I'm just trimming off little excess pieces so they don't hang too much off of the card. Now I heat embossed the sentiment that says "You Go Girl." It's also from that Heroescapes stamp set in white to some kind of coral pink cardstock. And I'm just going to finish this card by accenting with some of my favorite gems from Spellbinders. These are the Aura AB self-adhesive gems, and I use them on probably about 90% of my projects these days. So the little metal tip comes in really handy when using these, just because they're super tiny. And so you can actually kind of grab that self-adhesive part with the tip and move them into place, or just use the tip to move them where you want to. So those are my 3 cards featuring the Hero Studio card kit of the month in July. How about we move on to the die set? So here is my grid for the die. These are all of the different colors of cardstock that I'm cutting them from. Those 3 main colors were included in the card kit. The white, the gray, and the ivory glitter I added to this card set. Now, since this is a die set, I'm going to go ahead and showcase the entirety of putting this card together. Now, you're going to notice I pause here for a minute and I look because something just isn't right. I don't always remove mistakes. I like to show how I kind of navigate mistakes, and I realized, oh, it's upside down. It took me a second to get there, but thankfully the glue wasn't set yet, and I was able to flip it around and properly put that part of the tape. Now, if this isn't just the most fun retro set, I think that this is just super fun. Now, I don't know that you have to do this, but I had that little piece of extra white, and rather than keep those clear and open behind, I wanted to have that nice white background. So it's a great use for that piece. So now we've got those little tiny cassette, I don't even know what those are called. I mean, I did listen to cassette tapes back in the day, but they're the little things that you use your pencil in to wind the tape up if for some reason your tape got, pulled out, or, remember when your systems used to eat the tape? Anyway, there are probably some of you watching this that are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So speaking of tape, we're adding those little tape pieces into the middle section there. Now it's time to go ahead and add our stripes, which I have made kind of a fun little rainbow gradient with that shade of aqua. Up next is that lighter pink, and then the final stripe color is going to be that lighter shade of kind of a peachy corally orange. And we're going retro anyway, so I thought these were kind of beachy, fun retro colors for the tape itself. So now we have the little screws that go in the corner. I cut them from the same glitter cardstock that the tape came from, just to tie everything in together. These are super tiny pieces, so a wax tip embellishment tool comes in super handy when you're putting these down. And then finally, you add that little tape, which spells out the word hello, which I think is ingenious. This is probably maybe my favorite element from this month's clubs. I just think it's a super fun element. So sometimes it's hard to get things to glue down to glitter paper. So you'll notice I'm fumbling here with it. I think eventually I will grab a pair of tweezers to get it to stay a little bit better. There we go. So if you're struggling to get your elements to glue together, tweezers always come to the rescue. Now, I cut some strips from some of the colors of cardstock from the card kit and added them to the bottom of an A2 panel. I rounded just the upper right and lower left corner of that panel, and then I rounded only the upper right corner of the card base, because that lower left corner would require, it was double the cardstock, and there was no way that my corner rounder would have gone through that. So I just left it as is. Then I am just adding that tape, popping it up with some foam tape, and adding a couple jewels here and there. And that fun hello card is finished. All right, this is my final project featuring the July Hero Studio. This is the Layering Stencil set of the month. It is called Just Keep Going. And it is this really fun, I don't want to say ribbon words because they're not ribbons. They're just multi-layered words. Each letter is multiple layers, and it just ends up really fun. So I'm starting with a really nice shade of pink, kind of a peony pink, so it's a little bit more rosy versus a standard pink. And so we've got the start. Doesn't look like much yet, right? So come in with stencil number 2. And this one I am doing in a nice mimosa shade of orange. So think about brunch on Sundays or whenever. And there is the second layer. Finally, our final layer is this nice, very light shade of aqua. Going with a real beachy feel, I wanted this to kind of coordinate with that card I created for the die set. Now there is one more layer that has these little stars, but I decided to keep them off. Now that was my first attempt that I just didn't love on the background. So I just redid it again and flipped the cardstock panel and redid it again. So I am turning this into an edge-to-edge shaker. So I just added some double-sided adhesive to the back. And now I'm folding just a layer of plastic wrap over the top. And you have to leave one flap open, and that is how you add your shaker mix. Now, I got way too much in there, so you're kind of a little bit off camera. I'm just trying to add a little bit back into that bottle. I went a little crazy. And that is just a glitter mix that I have made. It's basically, I just add stuff as I have extras into that little bottle. And I think this was just a fun step for this fun layering stencil set. Now you could go a step further. You could die cut a frame and put that on top. The sky is the limit on this one. Now, I didn't want any of those little plastic flaps to show through or kind of get in the way of gluing down to the card. So I am just trimming away as much of the excess as I easily can do from the back. And look at how fun that shaker is. I just think it turned out super fun. So, pardon me, I went ahead and added a little bit of foam tape to the back, and I am adhering it down to a card base. That card base was created from some of the cardstock from the card kit. And that is my final card. That is my sweet little Just Keep Going shaker card. So these are my cards that I created for the Hero July studio. So the kits that I featured were the layering stencils, the die, and then the card kit of the month. And I think that these 5 cards turned out really super fun, and I hope you enjoyed watching them come together. Here are some photos of these cards. You can see them a little bit more professionally photographed. And that is my Hero Arts July studio. Thank you all so much for joining me and checking out my video today. I hope you enjoyed watching these cards come to life. I'm so grateful for all of the support that you give me here on my channel and all of the places that you find Leah Lawson Creates. Whether it's a heart, a like, a comment, a share, or if you shop from my links, I really, really do appreciate it. Speaking of links, if there is anything in this video that interests you and you'd like to purchase it, I have linked it in the video description to all of the places that I work with that it might be available. So one way that you can keep in touch with all of the things that are happening at Leah Lawson Creates is by signing up for my email newsletter. A few times per week, I send inspiration direct to your inbox. And I also include things like any upcoming lives or video premieres, classes, or virtual events that I might be part of or teaching at. I also share giveaways, prizes, sales, and freebies from all of the wonderful companies that I get the privilege to work with as well. So if you'd like to keep in touch, under the Let's Connect section in my video description, there is a link to sign up for my email newsletter as well. And I would love to have you join. Other than that, until I catch you in my next video, I hope you have a wonderfully creative day. Bye.